Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. I am super excited for today's video because it is a do-it-yourself meal kit and it is HelloFresh inspired. They are HelloFresh recipes. So we are going to break it down. I'm going to put the breakdown right here. And pretty much what I did was I went on the HelloFresh website and I found recipes with similar ingredients. This way I didn't need to get a whole bunch of different stuff. And this broke down to about $3.46 per serving. So that means 4 servings in 3 meals. So we got 12 meals. I spent $41 and change. It's right here, so I forget exactly, but it was super simple, and these recipes are so good. If you haven't tried a HelloFresh recipe, at least get on their website and try one because they are so yummy, and it actually helps you expand your palate where you would try things that you normally wouldn't. So let's get into the cooking. I'm not going to do too much talking, but yeah, let's get cooking, you guys. All right, our first recipe is a chicken sausage and bean soup. Go ahead and screenshot if you have to. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is wash and chop our produce. So the carrots and the kale, we're gonna chop that up, and then we're going to take the skin off of this chicken sausage that I got and just crumble that up, and then we're going to drain 2 cans of Great Northern beans. So let's get into making the cream base sauce, okay? We have 6 tablespoons of butter, 3.5 cups of milk, 6 tablespoons of flour, and a teaspoon of nutmeg. The nutmeg is what makes this special. So as soon as the butter is melted, we're gonna go ahead and add in the flour, and we're just going to cook that for about 30 seconds just to get rid of the raw flour taste. And then we're gonna add in our nutmeg. I did add about a teaspoon. You can do more or less, taste as you go. And then we're just going to slowly incorporate the milk, and we are going to cook it for a few minutes until it gets nice and thick. You'll know when it's ready when you take the spoon out and you run your finger down the middle and it stays separate. In a Dutch pan over medium-high heat, we're going to add a tablespoon of olive oil and the chicken sausage. And we're going to spread that in an even layer. And we're gonna let that cook for a couple minutes without breaking it up. And then we will gradually break it up into big chunks. And add in your carrots and kale and some salt. I used about a teaspoon of salt here, and cook it for 3 to 4 minutes or until the sausage is totally cooked through. Add in 2 tablespoons of the Better Than bouillon. You can use regular chicken bouillon cubes instead if you wanted. I just love the flavor of Better Than bouillon. And then I actually mixed 2 tablespoons of cornstarch with 2 tablespoons of water, and that's what we are adding in now. And then half of the beans we're gonna add in, and 3 cups of water. of your spoon to take some of the beans and smash them against the sides of the pot. This actually helps to thicken the soup even more. So we're going to add in half of that cream sauce base, which came out to be about a cup, and then the rest of the beans. Last but not least, we are going to add in a squeeze of lemon. We're just going to stir it around, make sure that everything is cooked through. So about maybe 3 minutes of simmering, and then it's ready to serve. And it is actually one of my favorite dishes that we made this week. All right, guys, so go ahead and screenshot this if you want to make this recipe. I didn't use all of this kale. I used like about half of it. So you don't have to worry about getting a huge thing of kale. You can use it for multiple recipes. So here I am just in a large skillet. I am adding a tablespoon of oil and I am putting in my kale. I'm gonna saute that down for about 5 minutes. And I wound up adding a couple tablespoons of water just to help the cooking process. When it's nice and tender and bright green, I take it out of the pan and I'm just gonna set it to the side. And then we're going to salt and pepper our chicken, get another tablespoon of oil in that pan. I actually used avocado oil here. And then we're just gonna saute the chicken on both sides until it's nice and browned and cooked through. So let's go ahead and get started making our curry. So I have 2 tablespoons of curry powder. There is a half of a 6-ounce can of tomato paste, so 3 ounces of tomato paste, 2 teaspoons of paprika, and I added about a teaspoon of red pepper flakes as well. Now we're gonna add in our coconut milk. The can that I got was 13 ounces and the recipe only calls for 10, so I had to measure that out separate. And then a 1/3 cup of water, 4 teaspoons of sugar, and 2 tablespoons of butter. Finish off the sauce, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of sour cream, and this is just going to make it creamy and delicious. Add your kale back to the pan and give it a good stir, and the chicken is done. Here's my little shortcut, my little 90-second bagged rice, and this actually came out so good. I am not a big fan of curry, but this recipe was so good. I think the sugar helped it too because it was a little sweet. Our final recipe today is spaghetti with turkey meatballs. So HelloFresh has a Tuscan heat spice, and what I did was I pretty much used a teaspoon of each thing here. So I used a teaspoon of rosemary, basil, oregano, garlic powder, and I used a teaspoon of regular fennel, even though it calls for ground fennel. And then I used a half of a teaspoon of cayenne. And this came out exactly like what the Tuscan heat in HelloFresh actually tastes like. First things first, wash our produce, chop it up, dice up the tomato, chop up the kale, and then to a heated skillet, we are going to add a tablespoon of butter, and we're going to add the meatballs. And I used frozen meatballs, which work perfectly fine, and I cooked them about 1.5 minutes per side until they were brown. They were not cooked through at this point yet, but that's okay because they will get cooked through at the end of this dish. So after you take the meatballs out and they are nice and browned, we're going to add another tablespoon of olive oil and then our kale, and we're going to saute that for about 5 minutes until it's nice and bright green and wilted. At this point, I definitely needed to add a little bit of water because it was burning the kale on the bottom because of the oil. So it's okay if you need to use a little water to help the cooking process as well. At this point, I'm going to add in a teaspoon of salt and about 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. As soon as it's bright green, we are going to transfer that to the same plate that has the meatballs, and back to the pan, we're gonna add another tablespoon of butter along with the Tuscan heat spice and the garlic powder. And we're going to cook this for about 30 seconds. Add in your tomatoes, your cream sauce base, and 2 cups of water. Stir it all together until it's nice and smooth. At this point, we are going to add in our pasta. I love these little half-length pastas because they fit in the pot. They're pot-sized and they're only 82 cents at Walmart. So I used about 3/4 of this package, and you just lay it flat and you're gonna boil. We're gonna bring it to a boil, and then we're going to reduce the heat to medium-low and let it simmer for 15 minutes, stirring occasionally to make sure that the pasta is staying submerged and cooking correctly. I do taste my food as I go, and at this point I realized it needed a little more salt. I used water instead of chicken stock, so make sure that you're tasting your food as you go as well to make sure that it does have the flavor. So after you have simmered that for 15 minutes, we are going to add back the kale and the turkey meatballs back to the pan, and we're just gonna mix it all together, and this is what it comes out like. When you serve it with a fresh squeeze of lemon. I absolutely love the flavor it gave to the pasta. So I hope you guys enjoyed this do-it-yourself meal kit. I'd love to have you stick around, subscribe, and have a wonderful day, guys. Thanks so much for watching.